Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Daphne Lage here. Join Nita Lanning and me on the Ragin' to the Vlogs show, where we talk about everything, nothing, and all the bits in between. Looking for hour-long conversations about indie comics, social media marketing, and crowdfunding, with the occasional rant and story time? Head on over to the Ragin' 2 channel on YouTube, Mondays through Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern to join in the chat.
Hit the button.
Ed Gein, Demon Hunter, on Indiegogo. After a deranged demon escapes the bowels of hell, Satan is forced to send a damned soul back to Earth as a demon hunter. Armed with a sacrificial dagger, Ed returns to his old stomping ground to capture the demon before the universe is destroyed. Ed Gein, Demon Hunter. Issues 1 and 2 available now on Indiegogo. Prepare for the ultimate face-off.
We've crossed paths more than once. I've whispered in your ear, shown you harmless little temptations. I am unknowable, yet you know me intimately. But you can always know me better. Collected here are 20 twisted tales that will thrill, chill, incite, and delight you from some of the most imaginative minds your species has to offer. This exclusive Indiegogo printing of The Devil You Know Better will be limited and numbered, with signatures from Mike Barron and Hart D. Fisher. Stretch goals achieved for this campaign will add interior chapter illustrations by Stefano Cardacelli. The Devil You Know Better. Back it on Indiegogo today, while you still can.
High above an enemy compound in Africa, Zadar strikes without warning. Issue 2 cover by artist Simon Bisley. While hunting for the man who destroyed his life, which lead him to Cairo, Egypt. Variant cover by Pablo Debonis. With the Jewel of Relie as one of those clues, Zadar meets up with his friend Akachi. Schneider sets the trap. New works from Corlin Kruger and Jason Lennox. Zadar gets a little help from Detective Ward Lovecraft. All rewards are ready to ship. Revenge has only one name, Zadar the Savage, in this action-packed adventure series, now on Kickstarter.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com, Chief Envelope Licker for Critical Blast Logistics, myopic proofreader for Critical Blast Publishing, and I do answer the phones now and then for Critical Blast Consultings when you have an IT issue with the data you collect on your crowdfunder. Tonight, yes, I said crowdfunder. That's where we're going again tonight. You haven't seen me in a while. You haven't seen me because I've been doing what all of you guys do who come to the show. I've been making the circuit of other people's podcasts because Critical Blast has a campaign going on Indiegogo for The Devil You Know Better. You saw the video. You know what it's about. There's a link in the description of this video. Click it later and make sure you get your $25 300-page hardcover of 20 stories. But the link prior to that one is the one we want to focus on for the next 60 minutes here, because that is the link that will take you to the Kickstarter for Zadar the Savage, brought to you by our guest tonight, Mr. D.W. Kann. D.W., how are you, sir?
Excellent, sir. How are you doing tonight? Thank you for having me on, RJ.
I'm glad to do it. And I'll tell you,
there you go.
I'm officially one swallow better than I was just 5 minutes ago.
Amen to that.
So I back a lot of books. I don't back as many as some people,
right.
But I do back a lot. I back the ones that interest me. And as a result, they tend to pile up on me until I'm like, oh yeah, I should be reading something.
Right.
So today I was like, hey, what would it be like if I actually prepared for a show? Been at it for 3 years now. Let's, try something a little different.
Right.
And this was in my stack. I had pulled the poster out. I was like, hey, we'll put it back up. Yeah. I've got I've had the pin on my hat-o pins up there.
Nice.
So I went, I didn't go all in, but I went well in, I guess.
Sure.
For Zadar #1. And folks, let me tell you, this was like reading one of the good Tarzan books of yore.
Thank you.
This was a lot of fun, and it was stuff that you don't normally see, I guess. It feels to me, I'm maybe not historically accurate at all, because when you go with feelings, you're just like making it up. But I always feel like the Tarzan adventures were like, I'm in the jungle. I won't be left alone. I'm living here with Jane. But another hunting party has come in. And it's always, a safari of poachers with another damsel in distress. And, natives get restless and lions attack. And we wrestle an alligator. This wasn't that.
No.
Why don't you tell us why you chose the setting for Zadar that you did, the time period and the character interactions that will happen here?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for your support, man. I really appreciate it. Zadar, it was an interesting little journey, because the fact that, like yourself, I mean, I grew up mainly watching the movies and TV shows through the 70s and the old Weissmuller movie, black and white movies, 30s, 40s, 50s, all the way through, as well as other Tarzan movies, growing up as a kid. So I never really read Edgar Rice Burroughs' books until we started working on this book. And, we had originally wanted to do a Tarzan, since it's in public domain, we wanted to do a Tarzan story. And, but the one thing we wanted to go into, my partner Ryan and I, who wrote it with me, the thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to take it beyond the jungle, because we felt, just like you just said, every time he's hanging out in the jungle, with Cheetah or his other 8 friends, as well as the fact that he's got Jane, hunting party shows up. You got to deal with them. You got to deal with the natives. You got to deal with, it was all kind of the same thing over and over again. And I think they made it was about 121 movies over the course of time, since the first one was in 1914, 1950, somewhere around there. And 1917, I'm sorry. And so you have all those movies, you get all the TV shows and everything. And the only person that really kind of took the Tarzan character out of the context of necessarily just always being in the jungle was actually Edgar Rice Burroughs. He had actually directed and produced a film where he's actually in the white suit, and he's a little more astute. He's got the bravado behind him, but he's not just running around in the jungle in the loincloth. But that movie tanked because he was doing something different than the Weissmuller at the time, and those movies were still out. And I think they actually even came out like almost a year apart. So unfortunately, his movie really never did much. So that's kind of the direction we wanted to go with. We wanted to kind of create this as more of like a James Bond, Batman-esque type of character built on the lore of Tarzan. Because when you look at the Tarzan character himself, he's got the money, he's got the background and all that, but we always just see him in the jungle. When you see him in modern times, or not modern times, but when he goes back to civilization, a modern civilization as he knows it, he's always the fish out of water. He doesn't really speak very well, and so on and so forth. So, for us, we wanted to, at the beginning of the first issue, is show him and our characters Zadar and Rose meeting up for the first time. Pulling off a little bit off the original Tarzan lore, but then going right into jumping ahead about 15 years or so, and they're in their 30s, and all of a sudden, he's matured, he's well spoken when he needs to be, he knows generals, he fought in World War One, so to some degree, so there's a lot of these things that we kind of built as the character from the past, and just kind of brought him into what he ends up being in the majority of the book. And we did base it off of Tarzan the Untamed, because originally that's where we had, like I said, we originally were aiming for making a Tarzan book.
Sure.
And then what ended up happening was we were debating if we should just do it or if we should approach Edgar Rice Burroughs' family, because it's a little tricky. Like the public domain stuff, is all the innards of the book, but then Tarzan in the name itself is trademarked.
Right.
So
if you can't put the name on the book, it's not going to sell it.
Right, exactly. So the weird thing was that I just, I do a lot of Kickstarters like yourself. So I didn't want to get all the way down the road, put it on a Kickstarter, then get a cease and desist,
Yeah.
So I figured, well, we'll take the safe route. We'll speak to these guys and see what happens. And, we chatted with them for about 6 months. They loved the script. We had already done, the inks of the book had already been finished, and we had just started the color. So we sent them everything. They liked what we had been doing. They approved of everything. They only wanted us to change like one little panel. And we thought it was a done deal. We thought this was kind of cool. But what ended up happening as the project kept going and we were getting closer to our date, things were just taking a little bit longer to kind of happen and finalize. And then once we got the contract, that's where kind of everything broke down. And we just decided that, with everything they were asking for and what we wanted, it just wasn't going to 100% gel. But that's fine. It's what happens. So we parted ways amicably, and they wished us luck. We wished them luck. And we had Zadar for us. We always had kind of that name, in the drawer. It's kind of when we came up with it originally, because if we didn't do Tarzan, we were going to we'll just go with, I don't know, Zadar. Does that work? And Zadar came from, I worked with the actor Robert Zadar for Maniac Cop, and he was in a film that I worked on called Future War, which ended up being a Mystery Science Theater as one of their favorites. And I always love that name. And like with Tarzan, you have the Z in there. You get very strong letters and a very succinct name. So we wanted something that could almost equally match that. So
yeah, it almost rhymes with Khazar.
Right, exactly. Then Marvel did Khazar, exactly. So. So for us, we said, we took the little hyphen out of Robert's name, and then I just created Zadar. Come to find out, once we went out and started putting this on social media and everything, 6, 7, 8 months later, we started getting messages from folks in Croatia. It's the capital. So they were all super psyched. So we're like, all right, cool. So that's kind of how it kind of came to be. And so for us, it was actually kind of a blessing in disguise, because there's a lot of things that, because they give you a list of like what Tarzan can and can't do. And that list was kind of, starting to change a little bit each time. The meetings kept getting further and further down the road. So it was actually just better for us to kind of go this route, because it gives us, we're not restrained by anything, and we can do whatever we want. And as you know, in the first book, it's pretty brutal. There's a lot of loss in it, but we really wanted to make that impact stick with the reader, so that when they come for the second one, they're just like, oh, okay, we want to see how he's going to handle this next bit.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing that too. And there's elements in here that as soon as I saw them, I'm like, oh, he's going somewhere where Tarzan's never gone before.
Right.
And we'll touch on that. I think it's interesting though when you talked about the movies that were made, that Burroughs directed one that flopped against the Weissmuller ones. when the Weissmuller ones are probably the furthest away from what Tarzan was in the books of any characterization of Tarzan. Because he's always talking with the barely knowing English, me Tarzan, you Jane, them carry guns, boomsticks.
Right.
But Tarzan in the books could speak many languages. He could pass in society. He was not necessarily royalty, but whatever they call it over there when you have a title, you're a landowner and such. And I guess the only one that ever really came close to that in the television was Ron Ely, because he was just a guy. He talked like just a guy running around in a loincloth.
Yeah. And I love that show. I mean, I thought he was one of my favorite Tarzans just because he's just kind of matter of fact, And
he was like Chuck Connors. It was like the rifleman just wore a loincloth. That'd be Tarzan.
It's funny because one of the things even when we were writing it and then going through the editing phase at the once all the colors and everything were done, Ryan and I we started, because we originally what it's like when you write a comic book. For us, it takes 4 to 6 months for us to complete each book. So when you write it initially, it's probably like a year out, and then by the time you get to I don't really look at the script. Once I send it off to my editor, and him and I sign off on it, and it goes to our inkers and pencilers and all that. I don't really look at the script again until it comes back to me as a letter form, because I like to give it a lot of breath and a lot of just distance, so that when I see it again, it's kind of a fresh new look. So when Ryan and I were looking at the final text for all that stuff, we're like, you know what? Let's take out a little bit of the ooh ah ee type stuff at the beginning. Let's make him a little more succinct, and then we just kind of progressively kept that going. And then once he meets once he goes into the whole war scene, and has to talk to these generals and such, it's like, oh, you understand that this guy's got a reputation. So he is somewhat educated. He is knowledgeable. He does know what's kind of going on out there.
Yeah. And you do a real good show don't tell kind of scene here with exactly just how educated I'm keeping doing it. How intelligent Zadar is when he's talking with these generals, and the German prisoners are walking by talking in German, and he turns around and talks to them in German, because they thought he couldn't understand, and they're obviously there for him, and he's not home. He's here with these British soldiers facing down the Huns, because this is a World War I battle scene, right? I mean, it's still World War I.
Yeah, no, we picked it from because there was a lot of battles, obviously, in Africa at that time, and so we were trying to pick. There was a very heavy German battle that was going on against the British, and the Akachi were basically they were the native African military, I guess, kind of military, but they were divided up between both the British and the Germans. They all used them, and it was a bloodbath battle. So it was one of those things that we kind of wanted to take little essences from that and add in, these little bits. And for us, again, our whole goal is to create something that, you would never see in a Tarzan movie. So if we did it with Zadar the Savage, it's like, we just want to turn it to 11. So when he shows up, with Nekima, in the trenches and everything, it's a whole other ballgame,
Yeah. And he's got the whole animal army behind him, which should scare the living crap out of any army that is there facing down. One of the things, the thing that stood out to me right from the get-go, after the very brief summation of how Zadar and Rose met in the jungle and how they became partners, it's their anniversary of some sort. I don't know if it's their wedding anniversary. I don't know if they got married or if it's just the day they met.
Yeah, definitely.
And by the way, kudos to the artist for keeping the scars that he acquired on that day that they met. That was a nice touch. But the present he gives her is the jewel of Aurelia. And I'm like, oh, wait, did you have to wrestle Cthulhu for this? Because, and I get the, at first I thought it was a nod, because I do know that you write the Lovecraft PI series, which is very Lovecraftian based. I thought, okay, well, he's giving a nod to his other series. But as we saw in the video for issue number 2, this is a coexisting series of books.
Right.
Your Lovecraft PI coexists in the same world as Zadar, and they're going to be crossing over here. So is there a supernatural element going on here? And is Herbert West going to be involved in any way, shape, or form to take care of some of the events that happened early in issue 1?
Actually, it's funny. Herbert he's one of these characters that I love, kind of like plotting what I can have him do next. And we had talked about putting him in the 3rd issue, which I don't think we're going to be able to, just because of the fact that we've got so much going on. But you never know what's going to happen with it. He's like a whack-a-mole. He'll pop back up somewhere. But it's funny that you mentioned that, because when I was doing research on, Edgar Rice Burroughs, I found a letter, and I don't think it's on the ERB site, but I found a letter that H.P. Lovecraft wrote, because he loved Edgar Rice Burroughs. He thought he definitely championed him, and Burroughs liked Lovecraft's work as well. And when you read The Jewel of Opar, which is the Tarzan story, which was written before Shadows over Innsmouth, and then you read Shadows over Innsmouth, you're like, wait a second, there's some similarities here with some of the creatures and the this and the that. And then Burroughs also sends Tarzan with the Ant-Men. He's fighting dinosaurs and all that type of stuff too. So all these guys are around at the same time. And what I really liked is the fact that I don't know if it doesn't seem like they ever met or worked together on anything, but they definitely obviously liked each other's work enough that there was like little essences of stuff, borrowed here and there. So for us, once we decided to go the Zadar route, not the Tarzan route, we needed to change the Jewel. So we were like, well, let's make it the Jewel of Arye. And the other thing that worked for us too is that since the Lovecraftian aspect and the Burroughs aspect were kind of, already kind of in there, from the authors themselves, we thought it would be kind of fun to have, Zadar in the same mythos as Lovecraft PI. And how can we make that work? And since this takes place in 1917, during World War I, I had already written years ago, Lovecraft's bio, our character Ward Lovecraft's bio, and he had gone to war. Him and West were actually sent to war after something that happened to them at the Arkham University, or Miskatonic University, I'm sorry. And so they're shipped off to World War I. Herbert, goes ahead and works in the med field, and then Ward separates and works in artillery. And then later on, he is recruited by Miskatonic Supernatural Detective Agency. And so that all happens around this time period anyways. So for us, it wasn't even much of a leap. And what's kind of cool is I hadn't really created Ward's first case at all. And so at this point, he's 20 years old. So we figured, oh, okay, this would be perfect. It's like, why not have him show up and, work with a foreign branch, the British version of the Miskatonics, as well as we can get him in line with, this being his first case, and let's see how this goes. And, we do have a little branch off one shot that we'll do that when the second issue comes out, you'll understand why, but we're doing a one shot that's Lovecraft on a mission, and everything will kind of come together in further issues, down the road with Zadar. So it's kind of a kind of an operatic epic tale with just Zadar and his family and what's going on with that. But we also have this whole detective story going on underneath it all.
Right. We do have some folks in the chat who are out here watching us as we're chatting away here. Mike Walters has shown up and liked and shared the stream. Appreciate that. Woody has, I have no idea. Oh, that's an ape. Okay. Yes. Woody's given us an ape sticker. Wonderful. Thank you, Woody. Inkfinity Comics is out there. Good to see you, Alejandro. Thank you for popping in here. Now I forgot what I was going to say because I addressed the chat. If I don't address the chat, folks, this is why. It's because I've got things in my head that I'm thinking of, and now I won't get them out. You started to say Arkham there for a minute and went back to Miskatonic.
Yeah.
Talking about trademarks and public domain and things that get away from people. Arkham is a Lovecraftian invention. It's an Arkham Hospital, and DC Comics just basically stole that in a Batman story. One of the first mentioned when Two-Face is going in there, and then has kept it. And to the point where it's like anybody doing Lovecraft is almost afraid to call something an Arkham this or an Arkham that because they'll get a cease and desist from Warner Brothers for Arkham Asylum.
Right.
And I guess it goes back to use.
Yeah, no, it's funny that you say that because I trademarked Lovecraft PI years ago, and when I was doing the research, I was looking up Arkham, and it's amazing how many people have that stuff trademarked, and they definitely have a lockdown on it. So I get it, but the way I see it, it's from the source material. I mean, if they want to do that, okay. I mean, I'm kind of small fry. I'm wicked small fry. So I mean, if they feel the need to do that, but for me, it's one of those things that we have a Reanimator series that's going to start up in the fall. We are wrapping up lettering that book right now, and that's a first issue in an ongoing series we're going to do with that. Is what we want to do with it anyways. And it's Lovecraft and our character Lovecraft and Herbert West at age 17. So they're even a few years before Ward in this book. And it's their whole stint at the Chapman House, at Potter's Field, and all the stuff at Miskatonic. So we're starting that up and just kind of plotting these guys in at that point and seeing how it goes from there and their relationship. Since we do have them in our second book, The Curious Case of Reanimator, we do know that they had a relationship. So I figured this was kind of fun to explore this at them at 17 and, pull from that a lot of what's in HP's original Reanimator story. And then just kind of, again, turn it on its ear, so it's a story that people know or more or less know, but we're kind of, again, taking it up a notch and changing a lot of things that we, that kind of work for us in the confines of our, our mythos that we're building. But we mentioned Arkham, and, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I think it could be mentioned, but I don't think anybody would ever make like a branding out of it. That's where the trademark versus copyright kind of comes in.
Yeah, the same with Miskatonic is also another one that's tough. I mean, I was able to get our Miskatonic Supernatural Detective Agency trademarked recently, and I thought that was going to be even tougher than it ended up being. But there was a lot of weaving and dodging I had to do just to get that one too, just because that name is getting eaten up pretty quick by Charlie.
Yeah, well,
actually.
Speaking of, I do need to catch up on my Lovecraft PI reading because my basic exposure to that is the crossover that you did with the Miskatonic High kids.
Oh, yes.
Mike Shea's book. This is their most recent copy. This is not the crossover.
Right.
Are there any talks about doing that again sometime, or talks about doing a Zadar crossover with somebody else who's sort of doing a period piece that would fit?
Mike, it's funny because Mike and I do talk about it from time to time, but I think both of us right now, we have so much on our plates between, because he has a campaign that's, I think, going on right now for the next 24 hours before it ends. So he's working on that book, and then we've got our stuff going on. But I think it's just one of those things, if we come up with a cool idea to put these guys back together again, I think it would be fun. And Zadar, I'm curious because, we haven't seen really any Lord of the Jungle type of books or movies out, except for the most recent Tarzan movie, which is what, 5, 6, 7 years ago now.
Yeah, and it didn't do all that well. I liked some elements of it, but it tanked theatrically.
I think the problem is that they didn't let Tarzan be Tarzan. They kind of gave everybody else his lines, and he just kind of was kind of a dud in it, unfortunately, which is a shame because I thought, we've got the technology to do this stuff now, so that's not the problem. You had the actor; he obviously looked the part, but I think it's just, it's the story they chose, and again, they chose the same story we've already seen a million times, which is, here's the ape man, here's the, and to me, I think that repetitive just gets tiring and boring, and I think for us, that's again why we wanted to have Zadar just be just kind of this crazy, kind of Conan, Tarzan kind of character where he's just when he goes bananas, no pun intended, he's really good.
yeah he's definitely losing control in this series, and possibly by design. The bad guy is definitely smart. He's pulling some strings here. He's pushing some buttons,
right?
And it's almost like trying to get Zadar out of control is playing into his hands. It's exactly what he wants him to do. And given the things that he's done to him, and boy, are we dancing around that spoiler.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too, is the Schneider character. He's one of these guys that, he was in the original book, The Untamed. And but he was a German soldier that he was in there a little bit, but didn't have really too much to carry. So for us, it was one of those things where we wanted to really kind of broaden that character a lot. And we based him off of the German actor Klaus Kinski, and who is probably my favorite actor. And that guy he doesn't even have to say anything, and his face just kind of emotes, whatever it needs to do. And so for us, that kind of like embraced what that character kind of became. And so between him and the other German soldiers that are in the book, we wanted to also build up this kind of mythos that Zadar, has a fandom to a degree. People know about him. There's comics that have been written about him. There's books that, and papers that have been written about him. So he's been a studied specimen for what he is. And we figured at this point, when he's 35 in the book, where it picks up in the present time, however long he's been under that microscope is yet to be determined. But I think it's very interesting to kind of have that in the background. So, when they come to the house, when they come to the estate, and Rose is there, and she makes the comment about how my husband's not a sideshow animal, so to speak. It's like they're escaping the paparazzi and moving to Africa.
Yeah.
It's that kind of bit of a take on that is what we were aiming for.
Yeah, and they do mention, and I don't think this is a spoiler because it's nothing really revealed here, but they do mention that they found the plantation because they got the information from Zadar and Rose's son,
right.
Who's presumably not named Boy.
No. His name is Max, and so that's the thing with this whole arc of the story that we're doing. It's pretty involved, but for us, Zadar does have his son, his only son, and we wanted to really explore that. And what would that be, being the son of a guy, like Zadar, who's as strong as 12 men, who's got this kind of, almost demigod persona, and is able to talk to animals, speak language. I mean, how could you live up to that of, being any type of child up to, so I don't know. It's an interesting factor, and how it's going to play out. We're unraveling that now, and it's gonna be brutal.
Yeah. I did like that you had the Weissmuller flash throwback with Cheetah. You named the chimp Cheetah. Cheetah was always my favorite, because Cheetah was always pulling monkey shines, no pun intended, and
right.
He was the imp character in the Weissmuller stories. One of the things I'm not clear on yet, because like I said, Zadar is a known quantity in this universe. He's a civilized man. It's not like they could just go capture the ape man and take him off on a sideshow. British law wouldn't allow this. He's a British citizen. He's he's a lord.
Right.
So it would get shut down pretty quick. So I don't know what Schneider's motivation is yet, but knowing that Ward Lovecraft is coming into this, I almost want to think that there is some sort of supernatural, almost an Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of plot device. Was I too on the nose with that one?
Okay. Yeah, the Well of Souls. No, it's you're right. I mean, there is a lot of that. We do have a supernatural element, which we originally had wanted to do. I mean, the first book, it's funny because the first book, lives or dies as it is. I mean, we didn't have to carry it on, but to leave the audience like that, I thought we just couldn't do that. So, so we had created this whole other story that we wanted to kind of continue on. And when we started getting into decided to bring in Lovecraft and do the supernatural aspect. And as I mentioned earlier, with ERB himself, even writing a lot of that type of fantastical elements, with Tarzan, we just figured, well, why the heck not? And so with Lovecraft in there, and so we did some research. We did find what we wanted to kind of bring to light. And I don't want to give up too much, but put it this way: if you look closely with this book and then the next book, there's a lot of little foreshadows in there that you'll pick up along the way. And when you get to the final reveal when it happens, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, all right. So we do have those little Easter eggs in there, just kind of hinting along. If you catch it.
Tarzan went to a lot of science fiction-y places. He went to the center of the earth. I believe he went to Pellucidar. which was another ERB property. And I'm pretty sure he also made it to Barsoom at some level. Are any of those ERB properties under another name going to play in the future here in some way, shape, or form?
I would hope so. I mean, right now it's we have such an arc going with the story we're doing. I think we're going to stick with this for a bit. But one of the things we had talked to ERB about too was also John Carter of Mars, because that's one of my favorites as well. And we'll see if that ever happens. But it's one of those things that I love that off-world stuff. I mean, it's like, and when you have a guy like Zadar, who's got this kind of, his physique and strength and everything, and his knowledge that he has, kind of just throwing him in, in those situations would be actually kind of a blast to see what would happen.
Yeah, I don't know if Dynamite's got the license on John Carter. They definitely, do the Deja Thoris books, and it seems like they sort of legally dance around John Carter all the time. He's in the books, but he never gets a title. They never really say his name, even.
Right.
I know that Disney maybe is still holding a license for the movie they did in case they wanted to have a sequel. People that I've talked to who saw that movie, by the way, said it was a good movie, but it was horribly titled with just John Carter. And, nobody, if that movie had been titled John Carter, Warlord of Mars, it would have tripled its box office.
Well, it was just called John Carter, right?
Yeah, it was just called John Carter.
Oh, yeah.
There was no Mars or anything to it. I mean, it could have been a John Wick ripoff of some sort.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, it's funny because I see a lot of people that skirt around that stuff, that put stuff out that's John Carter-esque. So I don't. The rights on that stuff is just. I mean, it's like with all this. It's been around for so long. There's all this maneuverability people seem to be doing around it and dancing around it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. If I ever do something with a public domain, first thing I'm going to do is make sure everybody's dead. It's the only way something's truly public domain is if everybody involved with it is dead.
Right.
And since there's an estate for ERB, and I have a friend, Michael Tierney, who's done some work with the ERB estate, to the point he actually had a scrap of a story by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and was allowed to complete that in canon for the Edgar Rice Burroughs people. Was Tarzan and the Mysterious She, and it was said to be unfinishable because I guess it had made clear in the canon that Jane Porter was the first human female that Tarzan had seen, and this occurred before then. So how could this, have possibly happened? And Michael said, well, I can tell you how it happened, and just did the story, and it got published. And I think he's one of two people who've actually been able to collaborate posthumously with Edgar Rice Burroughs on a story.
Oh, interesting.
He's also done the Edgar Rice Burroughs 100-year art chronology, which was this massive set of hardcovers that's reproduced and digitally restored and remastered. All the pulp covers, all the paperback covers. It's beautiful. But
yeah,
definitely. if it was the Tarzan story and it had the cover art, it's in that book along with all the text of things that happened in Edgar Rice Burroughs' life. So it's a history and an art chronology. It's pricey, and it will require a forklift to pick up, but it's beautiful.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of what I love about both with Burroughs and with Lovecraft. I mean, these guys, their work continues on well over 100 years. Unlike Lovecraft, Burroughs was sharp enough at the time that he incorporated his name. He trademarked very quickly. And he was one of the first authors to do that. So he was super business savvy like that. And
you got a town named after the character. Come on.
Yeah,
Tarzan, California.
Yeah, right. Because I think he was the first, one of the first landowners, and he bought up several hundred acres. So, but it's kind of astonishing to see the two different authors at the same time, and then one just makes this one decision, which not that Lovecraft didn't have any family, but just having the wherewithal to incorporate and trademark and all this stuff back in the 1920s is a lot of forethinking,
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, he probably didn't want people to steal his character. characters were becoming very different whenever they would change media back in those days.
Yeah.
And even later. I listened to a lot of old time radio on my Sirius XM, so I'm listening to all the serial adventures that they did.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to the Shadow. I'm like, oh yes, I would love to hear a good pulp Shadow story. I'm like, wait a second. I'm going to say this wasn't the radio. This was the Republic movie drama.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Those. I was like, this is not the Shadow. This is some guy who's a newspaper editor, and the Shadow writes a column for the paper. Like, that's not Who Knows What Evil Lurks in the Hearts of Men, even if you do say it.
Right.
And it was just Captain America was a district attorney, Grant Gardner, in the movie serials.
Right.
They just took so many liberties, and I guess that putting that trademark down kept him in control of seeing that this might become something else. There were all these emerging media coming around in the early 1900s, and he was looking ahead and saying, yeah, this is going to be more than just a book someday.
Well, right. Again, like I said earlier, you figure if you made if there was 121 movies, you had TV shows, cartoons, all of them. I mean, they were going merchandise galore. When Weissmuller, mainly when Weissmuller took off, and because he made the bulk of the movies, and he was the most popular at the time. So I mean, it's a hell of a cash grab. I mean, what other characters had that many movies made after him? At this point.
I can't think of that many, but now it's like they just can't do them right. There's a lot of people out there who could have movies made of them, a lot of characters, and we're just getting rehashes. We've talked about Edgar Rice Burroughs making money on the property. We've not talked about you making any money on this property. We've got a campaign.
Right.
And folks, this is the campaign that is linked right below the video. Please do click on it and check it out, because it has made goal, which means you're going to get a book, but let's be honest, it's not made profit. It's not made cost of publishing, I would say at this point, unless you've got an artist chained to a desk somewhere that you feed on a regular basis.
My own chunk, yes. Our books definitely cost more than our goal. For us, it's one of those things where it's always tricky. I've been doing this for a long time, and we had our earlier goals. We had always, put closer to what the mark was, and it was always a struggle because we were like, we want to do the books. I mean, that's for us. That's the goal for us, is we want to do the story, we want to do the books and create the stuff for folks, and we hope it catches on. So we try to make it a little bit more comparable by having the goal lower. But then for us, it's the stretch goals that we have. I always do a lot of stretch goals. I like to have fun with those. I also think with postage the way it is, and especially overseas, it's always handy to have, stuff like that extra, so that, you can kind of fatten up the package and send it for the same price. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So.
I can help you with that overseas stuff later if we talk. I have lots of online friends who go gaga over Simon Bisley, and I want to make sure that they all know Simon Bisley has done this cover. And here we go. We got questions already. What is the digital catch-up option? Is there one, DW? Do you have a issue 1 and 2 in digital format here?
Yes, I do. There should be. There's an issue 1 and 2. We also have, you can do it with the add-ons as well. It's kind of nice with Kickstarter now. They do that. Let's see.
Okay, here's catch-up print. I got to find the.
You have to get a PDF. Yeah, you can do the catch-up. I have a lot of. That was one of the things I was trying with this campaign, which I haven't done before, is do a lot of package deals. And early bird package deals. Gotcha. So I get the catch-up print and for 24, and
so there's an issue number 2 PDF right here at the top. Issue 1 PDF is available as an add-on.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so that would be the best option. It looks like George's. You could go in for the $6 PDF and then add on number 1. Number 1, by the way, one heck of a good quote unquote Tarzan story. You will not be displeased with this story here.
And I was going to say, Simon is also doing. He'll be doing issue 3 for us as well, the cover for issue 3. So we have him at least doing the first 3 covers for us. I had met him quite a few years ago at a Rhode Island Comic Con, and when we had finished our first Lovecraft book, Shot in the Dark, and I have been a fan of that guy forever. And I just really wanted, I didn't know what project I was going to do, use him for, or potentially use him for. And so when I give him in our Shot in the Dark book, he loved the cover that Paul Shipper, the artist, did for us for that, and gave me his information. He's like, yeah, let's work together. And I've lost track of how many years it's been, 6, 7. And when we originally were thinking of doing it as a Tarzan book, I know he had done a bunch of covers, Tarzan related covers. And I mean, for me, nobody better sells that than him. It's like, it just Bisley just, Tarzan equals Zadar for me. So so once we changed everything to Zadar, we changed the character more, and so it's definitely got more of that Conan type of feel of it that he kind of brings to it as well.
Yeah, he's got a very visceral, anatomical approach to his characters. They've almost sometimes got more blood veins than muscles in their arms, and they've got a ton of muscles. I love the not necessarily the makeup job on here, because the artwork that he put on the face.
Yeah, we wanted. It's funny because at the beginning of the second book, Zadar is on his rampage, and he has two panthers with him that are named Tiki and Hakiki, and he, for us, we wanted to take him in a slightly different direction than just the typical Tarzan thing, where he kind of understands certain animals. For us, our character is much more of like a Beastmaster type of character, where he kind of understands a lot of different animals and can communicate with them. So we wanted to kind of, and since he had the panthers with him, we wanted to give him this. Actually, Simon was the one that came up with the idea. He's like, oh, what do we do? Fangs down his cheeks, and we do this and that. And I was like, he sent me a sketch, and I said, that's it. We've got it. Yeah. So I just love this cover because it's just, it screams savage.
You got a wraparound cover here by Pablo Debonis.
Yep.
As an alternate. You got another poster. Is it going to be the same size as the one behind me here, or different size?
Yeah, it will be. It's a 13 by 19 poster. Yeah, that's by our guy Corin Kruger, who does all our Berserker covers. He does a bunch of stuff for me. And we wanted to do our kind of Cannibal Island of a little precursor with the story that may be coming down the road. So, and his style is very pulpy for me, so I just wanted to include him in this one.
This poster gave me a lot of hope when I saw it, but I can't ask about that. So, you do have the the Ravenwood, not Greystoke. He's Lord Ravenwood, I believe, right?
Yes, sir. James Ravenwood.
James Raven. Okay, I was thinking maybe I got it confused with the plantation name, but it's the same, I think.
Yes.
You got some really cool other add-ons here too. I like these.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So in this book, like I said, we've got a little bit more mystery going on. So I'm a big fan of challenge coins, as you know, with our Lovecraft stuff. So with this, we wanted to do the challenge coin because it's a key part of the story plot. And so the one side we have the Ravenwood crest, and then the back side we have, or the tail side we have the Black Hand. So we've got the Black Hand insignia with the two-headed snake, and then also we did a small tie pin for the family crest.
Right.
Really nice as well. And also with the challenge coin, we have coordinates on all our coins. So we decided to put since the coordinates didn't really work on the face, we put them on the rim. So on the rim, there's two different sets of coordinates, which lead to story clues that will be coming down the pipe.
So this is this isn't going to tell me to drink my Ovaltine, is it? Because if I go this way, I'm going to be very upset.
Right. No.
So do they do the coins work together then in concert? I mean, do you sort of need to have the first coin to figure out the second coin, or are they all standalone clues?
You mean the Lovecraft coins all themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean each coin is a representation of each book that we put out. So they tell a little story within the book. With the Zadar coin, particularly, it's telling the arc of what's to come. So if you type in the coordinates, you might have a pretty good idea what you might be seeing if you're into the lore of Lovecraft.
Very cool. You have a $2,500 stretch goal, and I've got to look around my shelf arms here. It's right in the way of my monitor. A little bit of ways to go to that. Would love to see some of these things get hit. Come on, guys. Help them get to 2,500. You get this 13 by 19 poster. This will be folded, I'm going to guess, because my other 13 by 19 was folded.
Yes. Yeah, we wanted to do something with Pablo's cover. We're going to start doing wraparound covers from our illustrators. They're a lot of fun, and for this one, we wanted to give it more of the Indiana Jones kind of feel, or James Bond kind of a feel from the Simon Bisley much more, which is his is much more of the noble savage look.
Yeah, and I'm not Sherlock Holmes by any stretch of the imagination here, but once I've seen a pattern, I can follow them. This is not any random blood splatter on the wall here, folks, right behind Zadar on the wall. That is, if you were paying attention to the coin we just saw, that is the Black Hand and Two-Headed Snake.
Yes.
I have read the story and I have not seen that yet, so I don't know what that means. I'm going to guess I will learn as I read further in.
Yes, correct.
It's important enough that it makes the coin.
Yeah, and on that cover too, we have the goons, the Black Hand goons. We wanted to give them our. We were trying to figure a way to kind of identify them, have them identified easily, and so we were like, you know what, we'll give them this particular type of mask. So
They're luchadors.
Well, yeah, exactly.
They're African luchadors or German luchadors. Now, this is interesting. You're going in reverse order. Usually you start with a high stretch goal and move forward. You start with the big one and move down.
Well, what ended up happening, actually, is we had hit our stretch goals, and then we had some people pull out. So so we went back down. So that's why. So originally we had the 2,000 and the 25, and then we fell back. So it's one of those things that happens, and I didn't want to renege.
Yeah, I mean, that's some major pullout. That's $200 worth of pullout there.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
The $2,000 stretch goal was the lobby cards. No, lobby cards are kind of big. Are these going to be more postcard sized lobby cards or what?
Yeah, these are like 6x9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, 6x9 is not bad. That's
yeah. So these are 6x9 lobby cards. We did some for the Miskatonic crossover as well, and they came out just beautiful. And I always love having them with me at shows and stuff as well, because I always make a few extras. And as like just little stocking stuffers when I send out mystery bags.
Yes, seeing where this is going, and having now just read issue 1 today, I'm on board, guys. When I got to tell you, DW, a lot of the times I'm always worried about, like, what if I don't like the book? Am I promoting it? And even if I don't like it, I'm like, you know what? This is an exposure show. But when I do come out and say on the show I like something, now it's a promotion show. Get out there, hit that link, and buy this book. Yes, you can get the digital PDF of number 1, print $18 for the digital PDF and print together. This is a gorgeous, shiny gold colored. Let's be clear. Golden colored pin for $10. I have this pin. It's on my hat of pins, proudly displayed in the front. So,
actually, somebody sent me a picture the other day on Twitter, and they have it as a tie pin. So,
that would be kind of wide on the tie, but
yeah, he had a white tie.
It'll work. Mine. This one's right under my glow in the dark Pocus Hocus pin of similar size.
Oh, no.
And $15 for this poster. This is gorgeous. If you love your jungle damsel in distress rescue scenes that were the subject of so many pulp painted covers.
Oh yeah.
This is right in line with that.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of old pulp, podcasts, and like The Spider and Domino Lady and all those, from the 30s, and just the covers in all those books is just unbelievable. I mean, the artwork on that stuff is.
Oh yeah,
I mean, the spicy detective stuff is great. The way some of that stuff that they did back then before Code, just.
There's so much sensitivity towards some of the representation of women, let's just say, I guess, in comic covers today. I'm like, you haven't read a Phantom Lady book in your life.
Right, exactly.
because this has been a thing for a while, boys.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. The
you
film
got-
has been around for a long time.
Yeah. You got some options here also for people to explore your Lovecraft PI series as add-on stuff.
Yep.
And including the Miskatonic High Lovecraft PI crossover. Now, is this your half of the crossover, or is this the full kit and caboodle?
That's the full kit and caboodle with both stories and both epilogues.
That was a fun story too, guys. If you haven't checked out Miskatonic High and Lovecraft PI, you're missing out. You've got to get in on these things. All the coins are here. You can get a whole coin collection, folks. This is, and I can't reach them, but I've got a handful of challenge coins I've been getting from other campaigns. I'm assuming you're probably going through the same manufacturers they are. These things are heavy.
They're very heavy.
If I carried all my challenge coins in my pocket, my pants would be falling down.
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing. I was kind of worried about it because when I did the first one, the Innsmouth coin there was our first coin, and I checked around, and actually I found the gentleman on Kickstarter actually because he was doing coins, and so we got together, and when I received the coin itself, I was like, man, this is perfect. The perfect weight, size. It just, So then we just kept working with them and creating these other ones.
I should come up with another design and do a Critical Blast coin. I just need something for the obverse side of the coin. That's my word of the day. I never get to say obverse. But since we have a round logo, yeah, it would fit. But you've got the Cthulhu copper coin, the Innsmouth coin, the Shubby,
Chubby, yep.
Chubby silver and Chubby gold. Now, I will reiterate here again because I've seen it happen where somebody said, "Hey, it's a silver coin," and somebody said, "No, it's not." and you're in trouble now with Federal Trade Commission, blah blah blah. Right. These are colors. These are colors of the rainbow. These are not precious metals. No. This is
there'll be a lot more than $15.
Yeah, do not be deceived or confused.
And that's not a real badge. Yes. It is a real badge, just not
tangible.
Exactly.
It does not represent any federal authority that we are aware exists. Now, does this badge, this is the same badge here, right? I'm just trying to get scale.
Yeah, it's the same badge there. So I was a prop guy in Hollywood for a long time. So when I dealt with.
Well, there's another hour for Showtime now.
That's a whole other lifetime. But so I did a lot of cop stuff, and so this is based off the FBI size. So it's a little smaller than your average shield. But so and with that being said, the design that we had chosen, they don't really make wallets for this design. So I had these wallets are actually all made specifically for this badge. So in for the 123, you would get the badge, wallet, and you get 2 ID cards, which is the Lovecraft one, and then you get a blank one that you fill in yourself.
Yeah. I would have done that anyways, to tell you the truth, if it wasn't blank. I had, God, this goes back. It was 1985. Yeah, that's about right. Marvel had these they always used to do freebie things that would come out, and they had Avengers ID cards, and it was just a little blank square on the white card. And of course, I was in college working for the Student Services Office where we took student IDs. So I took my picture, and not only did I have the right size picture that I X-Acto knifed out around the big Avenger A and slipped it behind it because it was over the picture. Right. I also had access to the lamination machine and the Zipatone tape. I can't remember what it was called, from the newspaper office, where we actually laid down the newspaper with borders of rub-on letters and sticker stuff.
Right. I know.
So Right. So I made a fake magnetic stripe down the back of the card. I was a nerd. I thought it was cool, but it was just not.
Well, it's funny because a lot of when I go to shows, and I sell also our stuff online. A lot of people they may not buy the books, but they buy all our little tchotchkes here because for them it's a cosplay or RPG,
Sure.
usage, and that's I mean, for me, that's great. I love that. I love the fact that, because there was one gentleman that told me he bought the Miskatonic detective badge and he has it for his Sherlock Holmes on his Sherlock Holmes jacket for his cosplay for that. So it's like it's one of those things that's kind of neat that it transcends into other fandoms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could, have you run into anybody cosplaying Ward Lovecraft at a con yet?
No, not yet. But I did actually. We had done a model kit of Ward, and so I blew up his head so that we can do. I made a mask, and so we have the mask is made and done. It's very strange looking because it's it's him, so it's this big jaw, big head, and everything. So I have worn that at shows, or I have it on the table. People are like just completely taken aback because it's like it looks like him, but it's a cartoon version, So
Yeah,
I have that in the fedora and everything, and it's interesting. It's heavy as heck to wear. So we're still fine tuning it, but eventually I'd like to actually start selling them, like the old William Shatner mask. You never know, maybe
another movie in the making here. I know that you've got your Berserker series here too. Yep. I know that on your website you've got a lot of other stuff because I've seen the mini busts of Ward, the mini busts of Mini Cthulhu. I think it's a mini bust of Ward, isn't it?
Yeah, Ward, the deep one, and then we have. I still have some Cthulhu's. We also have down. Actually, if you scroll down to we've got the Reanimator link, and which we're still working on those campaigns right now, designing them. But actually, if you click on these links, they go to the campaign itself that will launch in October, and we're actually working on a Reanimator figure, a painted figure. And if you scroll down, you can see that. And we're kind of working on the idea. It's at 7.5 inches, which is the same size as the other kits that we have done. But then I was thinking, well, maybe we do it at 12 inch. So we're trying to figure that out. But there he is. Yeah, so that's that'll be our figure kit is what we're aiming for that, or painted kit, I should say. And it's going to have 3 heads. That are all going to be replaceable when they have a little magnet at the bottom, so you can pop one off and put another one on. So.
Gosh, a magnet inside of a 3D printed figure, George. Where have we seen this before? Who invented this insane, crazy idea? George is professional 3D printer, has a house full of the things that he does for a professional living.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, and he's shown me. Figures that were entirely put together with the neodymium magnets. I mean, the shoulders and
right.
Hip joints and stuff. So when I saw this was magnetic and he's commenting at the very same time, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. By the way, he just picked up Berserkers 4 and 5 and the crossover add-ons all caught up. Thank you so much, George.
Thank you so much. So we wanted to, because there's not really much. I mean, the only Reanimator figures that are out there of Jeffrey Combs from the movie, which is great. I have them all, but we wanted to kind of create our own version. So since Herbert was in The Curious Case of Reanimator with his with his normal face, then he had his invisible head, and then he had his kind of transformation face, we figured those would be perfect little add-ons in there. So we're working on the price right now and what we're going to and when it's going to come out and all that stuff, but we're going to launch it. That'll be on that campaign when it comes out in October.
Very, very nice. Well, since we have got confirmed backers during the show, DW, one of the things we have on the show here is our shake and bake moment. And it goes a little something like this.
It's shake and bake and I help.
So for those in the chat who have helped to get this goal up to 1851 now, 89 backers. Thank you so very much. Thank you for doing it on my show. It makes me look like I'm doing something for these guys when they come on, rather than just wasting their breath. We are past the top of the hour, and I don't like to keep people very, very long like that. But all I can say is, folks, Zadar the Savage, get it. You will not be disappointed. You'll want to explore DW's other books, so you might as well just add them on while you can, because I've been there. This is a road I've traveled down, and I'm back again. And I'm telling you, go down that road. I cannot emphasize that enough. DW, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. Do appreciate you taking time out to share this project with us. 7 days to go.
Thank you, RJ. I appreciate it. I really do.
This is the point where everything starts to spike back up again with a crowdfunder. So enjoy the ride. It should be a good acceleration at this point. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much again for showing up tonight and watching us. We don't have a show without you. We're just a podcast falling in the woods, and that's not fun at all. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night.